alive and awesome God. Come on.
On October 28, 2025, Hurricane Melissa devastated Jamaica. But your government is mobilizing, reaching every community, delivering relief, and rebuilding together. The time by the Office of the Prime Minister is
5:30 p.m. and it's family time.
Good evening and welcome. You're listening to Love 101 FM, or you may be on Facebook and you may be on YouTube Live, and we are glad to have you. This is Family Time. Family Time is about your community family and your global family. Family Time is produced by Family Life Ministries, and our aim is to enable healthy families which will lead to healthy nations. So stay with us and please connect with us via all our platforms. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Family Life Ministries FLMJA, and on Instagram, you can keep up with what's happening, and that is simply FLMJA. Now, while Family Time is a family program, we'd like to caution that sometimes it may, on the odd occasion, touch on what some might consider mature subject matter. And so we're going to ask you to just use your discretion. If you have youngsters around, please ensure that you're there to guide and to respond to any questions that they may have. My name is Roland Gale, and we're bringing you another episode in our pre-pre-marital series, and it's designed just to give you an idea of what to expect when you go in for premarital counseling. And today we're talking about family dynamics and in-laws. Now, I use this word in-laws, but I prefer to call them in-laws. So many reasons. Many couples spend months planning a wedding, but very little time discussing how their families will fit into their future marriage. Different parenting styles, different family traditions, different financial expectations, different levels of closeness, and even different ways of managing conflict can become major sources of tension if they are not addressed before you actually tie the knot. Lots more to focus on. Today, we are discussing the topic family dynamics and in-laws. And while we have that conversation, we're going to ask you to answer this question. What is one family habit you would never want to bring into your marriage? Send your answers via WhatsApp text or voice notes, and the number is 997-3125. Try to keep the voice notes shorter than 30 seconds. And if you feel like, you can call our studio lines. Numbers are 968-8327 or 968-8328. You can watch us and you can comment live on Love 101 FM Facebook and on Love 101 FM YouTube as well. Here, our conversations are about faith, family, and how we live out our beliefs with love. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Where are the campus eyes? Students are strapped up in a prize.
On the next Campus Connection, Tuesday, June 16, we will focus on fathers in education. Fathers play a significant role in education, and their involvement can have a positive impact on children's academic and personal development. Join us as Mr. Jody Brown, LASCO MOEY Teacher of the Year 2022 and lecturer at the Micro University College, Mr. Leandre King, Vice President of the St. Catherine High School ISCF, and Mr. Christophe St. John, educator and JTC mentor. Expect explore how actively involved dads correlate to higher test scores, better behavior, and greater resilience. Plus, don't miss our interview segment with Romario Mitchell, Passion and Purity Youth Leader, as he shares about their upcoming summer camp. Campus Connection is proudly brought to you by the Live Good Anti-Violence Campaign, an initiative of the Ministry of National Security and Peace. Tune in on Tuesday, June 16 at 5:30 p.m. on Love 101 FM, the family station.
Welcome back to Family Time on Love 101 FM. You may be watching us on YouTube or on Facebook, and we are glad you're here. Remember to answer the question, what's one family habit you would never want to bring into your marriage? And you can send your responses to our WhatsApp line. Number is 997-3125. Try to keep those voice notes no longer than 30 seconds. And you can also call our studio lines 968-8327 or 968-8328. You can also watch and comment on the Facebook page or on our YouTube channel. That's Love 101 FM Facebook or Love 101 FM YouTube. For a few weeks, we have been sharing with couples some of the key conversations they can expect to have once they sit down for formal premarital counseling. And today, we're looking at a topic that many people kind of underestimate until after the wedding day. And this is family dynamics and in-law relationships. Every family has its own culture, traditions, communication style. Every family sets their own expectations. And sometimes different families have unresolved issues. When two people marry, those family systems often collide in ways that nobody anticipates. And so today, as part of our pre-marital counseling series, we're looking at one of the most critical and sometimes uncomfortable topics, family dynamics and in-laws. To help us navigate, we are joined by a longtime friend of Family Time, Associate Clinical Psychologist, the lady Sonia Winter, and she's from Tea House Therapy. She's going to be guiding us through this discussion, and so I just want her to come on. Hello, lady Sonia, how are you doing?
Hello, Sir Roland. I'm fine, thank you. Nice
Great.
to see you.
Good to be seen and nice to see you too. So now let's go through some of the stuff. We're gonna start at the idea of the importance of examining the family environment that we grew up in. Is that something that is critical for us to do? Examine the family environment we grew up in?
I would say, is that directed at me? Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Absolutely. I was wondering if it was directed at your viewers as well. But I would say an unequivocal yes. Because your family environment really tells you a lot about yourself, because your family, wherever you grew up, that community of the family, whatever that family happens to look like, is really your first classroom. It's what it teaches long before you entered any classroom at all.
Wow.
You were in the classroom.
What a statement. It is your first classroom, first place of learning.
Absolutely. And what the thing about it is, Roland, is that some of the lessons you pick up are very, how should I say, subtle. They're not on a blackboard written out for you and the rules and so on, But at the same time, they're extremely profound, what you learn there. You learn profound things such as, how do people show love to one another, right? Is apologizing part of how we show love to each other or not? Are we allowed to speak as children? Big things like roles. What are the roles of men and women in the home? How should a man behave in the home? How should a woman behave? home? Do we talk about problems? Especially the things that are relevant to marriage. Do we talk about problems, or do we just pretend everything is fine? And then one day something blows up. When we're upset and something blows up, how do we treat each other when that happens? Do we do we comfort the other person? Do we acknowledge any responsibility, or do we shame them? Do we withdraw and shut down? Do we, all of that we're observing, and we're taking it in from our family, from our family classroom.
Yeah, that's such an important way to start. We all find ourselves in a classroom from birth, and then the lessons that we learn are what we carry forward. So
Exactly.
if we have two people who come from very different family cultures or very different classrooms, can they build a healthy marriage together?
Oh, absolutely. I would even wager that most people come from different classrooms, but I've taken on this phrase, long live the diversity, because the difference can really make both individuals in and of themselves stronger, and of course the union stronger. These differences, different, and so it doesn't have to be a problem. It can actually be a strength.
Right.
And each of them can enrich each other really well. But I think the issue is when the differences are unconscious or they're unspoken, and then because they're not really understood, there can be judgment across the divide and disrespect, that sort of a thing. So it's important in premarital counseling that we examine these things, and we're curious about ourselves and the other person, rather than being judgmental. A lot of times couples sits in front of me, and it will be, you'll hear comments such as, your family's so weird, I don't understand why they behave in that way. You know what I mean? And that's not going to cause a kind of cohesive, that's not curiosity at work. Is what I would
that's kind
say,
of condemnation.
Exactly.
Right.
So
what are some, if you could just
may I
name
say,
out
Roland,
some?
it's also going to make negotiation more difficult, because when two people come together, they're negotiating the future. What they're really cherry picking from their different classrooms. Which lesson from my classroom do we want to take into our new classroom that we're creating for our family? Which lessons from your classroom do I want to take into the new classroom that we're creating for our family? That's a negotiation. It's a give and take.
I love this because it now become a matter of developing a syllabus. I love how you have said
and the
it.
syllabus is yours and mine. We do it together, but we have
We
to
create
understand we're creating it together, for sure.
Oh, that's so cool. So then what are some things that we genuinely would not want to have in our syllabus? What are some unhealthy lessons that we would say, make we take those and put them one side? We don't want to carry them forward. Just to name a few.
Well, I think it's different in every family, right? And I think what's very important is how we negotiate things, because what might be okay for me might not be okay for my partner, what might be a norm for me might be completely abnormal for my partner. I think what you want to look at, particularly as it relates to in-laws, is to kind of ensure that your in-laws are a source of advice and support rather than influence. You're going to get into trouble if your in-laws are the ones making decisions for you, and especially without the consent of the other person. That's a breeding ground for resentment, is what I would say. So I think that's a very important starting point. That it's the couple that's making the decision.
Right. You said they ought to be a source of advice as opposed to influence. So when we come back from the break, I'm going to ask you to just kind of flesh that out a little bit for us, if you don't mind. But we're going to ask our listeners now the question, what's one family habit you would never want to bring into your marriage? We're looking forward to hearing and seeing what you have to say. And you have the WhatsApp number already, 997-3125. If you're sending a voice note, please don't make it longer than 30 seconds. And of course, this is brought to you by Family Life Ministries. Our head office is in Kingston, and I'll give you the numbers to call them if you need to call them when we get back. We're talking about family dynamics and in-laws. This is all before the wedding. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
This is Love 101 FM, the family station. It's 5:45.
Montego Bay, we're here. It's time to transform your space with Home and Things. Your construction finishes superstore is now open in Ironshore. Come explore our stunning new showroom at 1215 Providence Way. From tiles and bathroom fixtures to stylish fittings and home decor for every budget. We have everything you need to build or renovate in style. Quality you trust at the lowest prices guaranteed. Visit us today at 1215 Providence Way, Ironshore. Jamaica builds with Home and Things.
Last year, over 15,000 gathered for an unforgettable moment with CC Winans. This year, Come Alive Collective presents Come Alive, a national call to worship featuring Michael W. Smith, Papa San, Jermaine Edwards, John Mark Wigan, and more. Saturday, August 1, King's House East Lawn. Gates open 2 p.m. Get your tickets now at Fontana Pharmacy or TouchstoneLink.com. Come Alive, Jamaica. This is your moment.
Welcome back. You're listening to Family Time, and it's brought to you by Family Life Ministries. And if you want to get in touch with Family Life Ministries, you can call the head office in Kingston. The numbers are 920-1034 or 926-8101. Let me say that again. 920-1034 or 926-8101. Have you responded to the question yet? We're going to read your responses very quickly. And this is a question. What's one family habit you would never want to bring into your marriage? And give us a call or send us a message, and we will be sure to share it. Our topic this week is family dynamics and in-laws. Now, before couples can understand each other's families, they first need to understand their own, how they are influenced, and so on. And as many of us have realized, whether through personal experiences or movies or news or even friends, in-laws can be a source of support, or they can be a source of stress. With us to continue the conversation, we have Sonia Winter, and she is a longtime friend of this program, and we are happy she's on. Before we went for the break, I was asking if you could just give us a little more info on the difference between a source of advice or a point of influence regarding in-laws.
My apologies, Roland. I meant a source of interference is what I should have said instead of influence.
Okay.
Because remember our families influence us to begin with anyway, so we come to the table with each other already influenced by our families. But I think when, one partner can't make a decision on their own, in collaboration with their partner, they need approval from their parent, or the parent is interfering, without being invited so to do. I think that can be damaging to the connection between these two people. So I think advice is okay, influence is okay, but interfering and requiring approval from in-laws can be very damaging to the connection between these people.
Thank you for that, because that's why I wanted a little more clarity, because I was wondering how that would have worked. But certainly, interference could be something that is detrimental. So why is it that...
I do want to say though, Roland, I do think that at the end of the day, the negotiation between the couple is what's paramount. So, I mean, it's okay, you don't want the in-laws to be approving something, but imagine a scenario where the couple I don't know, like they're getting a donation for a house from one in-law, and together they decide, you know what, since mom and dad are contributing and they really want us to live in Caymanas, let's go with that then. And so to make them happy, but the two couples decide that they're going to, then that's, I think that trumps, as it were, you know, the kind of Chinese, you know, kind of you deciding, making sure that the parents' word is not the final word, as it is. If you get what I'm saying, Roland.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. And that is why I appreciate you saying that it is critical for the negotiators, that's the two people in the marriage, to do the negotiating and to do the decision making. Because you get information and you get input, but then you are the one who makes the final decision.
That's right.
I appreciate that. So leading now, we're talking about pre-marital counseling. Why do in-law issues become so common in marriages?
I think because, you know, once a marriage happens, the family structure as we know it changes. There's what you call it? There's a tectonic shift of the plates, as it were, you know. Before marriage, the adult child might have been, you know, emotionally completely available to the parent in a certain way, you know, and the parent might have had, you know, huge influence over the everything about the child. They might have had certain rituals, you know, go home every Sunday for dinner, or visit every weekend, or share every decision, choose every car, you know, etc., etc. Right? Then comes along Prince Charming or Princess Bride, okay? And suddenly there's a new primary relationship, okay? A spouse now has to be considered first in many decisions. And that shift, it can be beautiful for the couple, but it can be very threatening and painful for some parents, you know, because it's such a dramatic shift. And it's not necessarily that the parents are interfering or so on, you know. Sometimes the parents are actually grieving these changes, you know, grieving the loss of closeness, for example, you know, or, you know, they're grieving the change in the relationship, you know. And if they don't realize it sometimes, and they don't handle their grief well, then it can show up in kind of passive aggressive ways, or criticism, or guilt tripping, you know, that kind of a thing, or comparison, you know, that can be kind of damaging sometimes.
You know, there's a hard question to ask here, and I know that we are in June, and this is typically, I think, the month for weddings. This is the bride month, right? But what happens, or how should a spouse respond when a parent disapproves of the partner that is being brought? How should a spouse respond? Or how should a future spouse respond?
Wow, that one is delicate, Roland. You're putting me on the spot. But okay, I'm equal to it. So I think you don't want to dismiss a parent's concern automatically, right? Because sometimes what parents see, you know, they're not as giddy, they're not as
sometimes you're not seeing it.
Exactly. And sometimes what they're saying is worth considering, you know, and I would, and particularly on certain matters, you know, if a parent is raising concerns about abuse, about dishonesty, disrespect, you know, exploitation, in some character issues, you know, about the person, then I think the adult child ought not to just dismiss that, but certainly give it considerable reflection and introspection. You know what I mean? But if the disapproval is based on control, you know, or I'll be honest with you, Roland, what I come across a lot is that disapproval particularly in Jamaica, can be based on classism sometimes, a prejudice, that sort of a thing. Or, as we said earlier, the parents just not wanting to release influence over the child, then the adult child probably has a responsibility to kind of lovingly protect their relationship in a firm but respectful and loving way, is what I would say to that.
Yeah, Sonia, you said something a little while ago, and I want to go back to it a little bit. The idea of habits, and you mentioned rituals, and you also spoke about grief. There really are, and this is even in my own experience, there are things that you would have done with a parent or with parents before you got married. And having got married now, some of those things really get abandoned. How, as the couple, are we really supposed to address those things? Because in a way, it kind of not fair.
Mm-hmm.
How does the couple look back at these things and help the in-laws to get over it? How do they do that?
Yeah. I think it takes a very mature conversation, Roland. You know what I mean? A very, very mature conversation. And I think perhaps, the best way to do it is, what do they call it? To kind of bookend. You know that notion of bookending. So it's a conversation that says, yes, exactly. Yeah. It's a conversation that says, these are the things we did together that are so much a part of who I am. I love them. They're very important to me. And thank you for the kind of sacrifice and discipline that you, mom and dad, grandma, whatever, put into me and my time and our connection. Thank you for that. It is important to me. I don't want you to ever think that I don't appreciate that, and I want to be able to establish the same kind of connection with my partner now. And so what that means is I'm going to be investing time so that my relationship with my partner can benefit in the same way from similar rituals, in the same way that our relationship benefited so much. This relationship is a small plant that we're nurturing. And I think creating rituals with my partner is something that I want your blessing on. And maybe we can compromise, Is there a way we can compromise? I won't come home every single Sunday. Maybe you can come to us on every third Sunday. Or I come to church with you every first Sunday. Maybe we can compromise so that I can nurture this new relationship with new rituals.
And so it almost becomes a negotiation, but the partners, the people negotiating are different, because now it's the couple negotiating with the two sets of in-laws.
For sure.
Wow. Before we go for the break, and we only have about 2 minutes, what happens if one spouse don't have no parents? There is only one set of in-laws. Mm-hmm. What happens there? We only have about 2 minutes.
Sure. Well, the negotiation won't happen with that spouse's parent, right? So they're no longer actively influencing, but they would have influenced, the person. So that spouse still has rituals that they hold dear. So the couple still have to negotiate those rituals. You know what I mean? The couple still have to decide which rituals, roles, behaviors are we taking from my family of origin, even though my parents no longer exist. Let us still negotiate that. And then together, if we need to negotiate with your parent, let us do so as as allies, as a unit.
Absolutely. We're going to head for the break now. This is Family Time on Love 101 FM, and you're probably watching us on YouTube or Facebook as well. It's produced by Family Life Ministries, and for our interaction with you, we have some answers already. What's one family habit you would never want to bring into your marriage? When we come back, we're going to read a few of them. So let us know. The WhatsApp number is 3125. Stay with us. Our pre-marital program continues after the break.
Last year, over 15,000 gathered for an unforgettable moment with CC Winans. This year, Come Alive Collective presents Come Alive, a national call to worship featuring Michael W. Smith, Papa San, Jermaine Edwards, John Mark Wigan, and more. Saturday, August 1, King's House East Lawn. Gates open 2 p.m. Get your tickets now at Fontana Pharmacy or TouchstoneLink.com. Come Alive, Jamaica. This is your moment.
What causes families to break apart, friendships to crumble, churches to divide, and nations to go to war? The Bible points to two powerful forces, pride and wrath, two of the 7 deadly sins. Tuesday, June 16 on The Rock, join guests Pastor Christopher Kennedy and Pastor Dane Brown as they explore what Scripture says about these dangerous attitudes, how they affect our relationship with God and others, and how we can overcome them through Christ. This thought-provoking discussion will challenge you to examine your heart and discover paths to humility, peace, and restoration. So join us on The Rock, Tuesday, June 16 at 10 a.m. right here on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back. You are tuned to Love 101 FM, and this is Family Time, brought to you by Family Life Ministries. FLM provides counseling for people with all kinds of challenges from all walks of life. Now let's get a word from Reverend Mike in this episode of WTF, Word to Flesh Moments with Reverend Mike.
For a couple considering marriage, Ephesians 5 commands husbands to love their wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. 1 Peter 3:7, wives are commanded to submit to your husbands as to the Lord. As children come along, Colossians 3:20 commands, children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. It is evident that the family dynamic should be built around one primary person, that is, the Lord Jesus Christ. Those who are able to build such a family dynamic give testimony to the fact that all or most other issues fall into place. For such a family dynamic, when founded on the Lord Jesus Christ, activities and circumstances are positively influenced and impacted by his love. So in-laws, instead of being considered outlaws, become positive contributors in a circle of love. Children, instead of being labeled brats, become precious gifts to be nurtured in a circle where love is given and received. Husbands and wives, instead of being competing individuals, become a loving unit where children are lovingly nourished and in-laws are valued contributors. So we encourage you to build your family on the person and work of the Lord Jesus Christ, where love is the preeminent value and all actions are guided by his love. I'm Reverend Mike from Fellowship Tabernacle, and we just had a WTF moment.
Wow, thank you for that, Reverend Mike, that WTF moment, word to flesh, talking about how we are to build a foundation on the love of Christ and making sure that that love is what influences us above all else. Welcome back, our guest today, Sonia Winter. Thank you for being with us. Now, healthy marriages require healthy boundaries. And to continue talking about that, we want to get straight to this question. What does a healthy boundary actually look like?
I would say a healthy boundary is again an understanding that the couple establishes between each other as to what is appropriate for them. You know, it might mean we together are deciding that we're not going to share every single detail of our challenges with our in-law, you know, or we'll consult with each other before we choose to share something, you know. We together.
I want to interrupt you. I have to interrupt you because we have a couple responses from our listeners, and one of the responses is this. This person, Roger, says he does not want to discuss marriage issues with anyone except his wife. Now, does that bring up the reference of boundaries?
Mm-hmm.
Discussing marriage issues with somebody other than your spouse?
Yeah. I think certainly without your spouse's approval I would say is a big no-no.
Yeah.
You know, without your spouse's consent or even knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
that's certainly a violation of boundaries, you know.
Right.
It's, you know, I would certainly start there. But again, as I said, you know, Roland, I always privilege our negotiation, our shared agreements over anything else. That's what defines the boundary, you know.
Right. Something that both can agree on and agree on wholeheartedly in a way.
Yes.
How does compromise come into that? Because if somebody will say, well, you don't really agree because you're compromising, but how do you address that?
Mm-hmm. I think compromise often comes after very deep conversations about what's really important to each of us, you know. And there are conversations that, well, I often lead couples through is very structured, where I help couples to identify the most important things to them, and then within those subject areas, what can you negotiate on? So it might be that I feel very strongly that none of our parents should make a decision about on our behalf, let's say, you know, but I can negotiate some things. Like, I don't mind if we talk about it first and decide whether some things we're going to share, or on the matter of children, where that is I don't want to negotiate that at all, but we can negotiate how often the children spend time with them or something like that, you know. I don't want to negotiate where our family worships, for example. But I will negotiate how often we worship there, for example, or
Right.
you know, which Christian festivals we celebrate where or something, you know. There's around every firm position held, there's wiggle room in terms of when, where, how, that sort of a thing, that sometimes you have to almost write them down, and it's the wiggle room areas, the how often, the what time, etc., that you can then, it's easier to negotiate, give and take, and
You know, it's
come
interesting,
up
you
with
know.
a compromise.
Yeah, and there's this saying that every rule has an exception. And so we just have to kind of bear that in mind. Now, we have some more comments. I want to make sure we get them. So the question was, what's one family habit you would never want to bring into your marriage? And Judith, she says, there is this thing that the male parent always has to get, the best part of the chicken, the breast. The male parent always have to get served first. I say no. Let all the meals be served to everyone seated at the same time, and sometimes make the male parent get served last. This is to break down the superiority syndrome around the dinner table. All members of the family are equal. So that's Judith. And then Dennis says, my family was so hospitable, we took each other for granted. Is there an issue where that is concerned of us taking each other for granted, taking each other's families for granted. Can that be an issue in the marriage?
Oh, for sure. I think taking anybody for granted in any relationship is a cocktail for hurt and disaster and pain, you know. Nobody in any relationship wants to feel taken for granted. We all want to feel seen. We all want to feel appreciated. You know, we all want to feel respected in those relationships. And feeling taken for granted is almost the opposite, the antidote, the antithesis of those feelings, you know. And if that transcends to how the couple then treats one set of in-laws versus the other, I think that they can lose out, you know, because the support of in-laws is always something that can be leveraged, you know. And you can squander that connection with your in-laws as well, which you know, under other ordinary circumstances can really be a benefit to the couple.
Absolutely. This phrase, "that's how my family stay," or I saw them stay, is that phrase an excuse for unhealthy behavior?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Because here's the thing. I don't think anything is okay for, there's no, whereas you can explain and understand unhealthy behavior, right? If this person is saying it's so them stay, so don't worry yourself about it, you know, just let it continue, then that is not okay. If we're using that phrase so that, you know, disrespect, blurred boundaries, that sort of a thing can continue, especially to the detriment of the other person, then I would say that's not okay at all. And also, if that phrase is being used in order to dismiss the concerns of the other partner, right? So one partner is saying, I feel really hurt when your mother corrects the children in front of me, right? And the other person says, well, that's how my mother stay. Don't worry yourself. I'm gonna feel dismissed about my complaint. You know, I'm gonna feel unseen, disregarded, that sort of a thing. And that's a recipe for disconnection in the couple. You know, that's setting up a dynamic that's going to make negotiation more painful, or is setting up a dynamic where there's going to be resentment, you know, all things that will work against the allegiance that we're trying to create.
Oh, I love that word, allegiance. Yes, that is what we are trying to develop. Yes. And here's another comment from Dane. It says, I'd want to leave behind the habit of letting disagreements turn into loud arguments and shouting. Growing up, noise and conflict often went hand in hand. But in my marriage, I want to prioritize calm communication and keeping our home a peaceful space.
Wow.
That's what Dane says.
Beautiful, Dane.
Beautiful, Dane. Well done, Dane. You got a ticky from Miss Sonia. All right.
From teacher.
From teacher, that's right. And then Nikki, she says, just one. And then she starts to list them out: infidelity, anger, malice, pride, constantly making wrong decisions, and the list goes on. You know, when we look back at our families, are we sometimes harder on them than other people are?
We can be, but you remember the role and the question that Nikki is answering, you know, she's saying, these are the things I don't want to take into my new family, into my new classroom, you know. And the truth is that we can be harder on our own families because we are more directly affected by these actions, you know what I mean? We suffer more when it's people closer to us who are carrying out many of those behaviors that Nikki just listed. You know, we are in the first line of fire, as it were. So, you know, and that can influence how we move forward. Because you know what, I think what we're not talking about too, Roland, is sometimes we reject those things, right? So Nikki's saying, I reject these things that I may have seen in my family. But what is what remains somewhat mysterious in the world of psychology is, when do I instead end up modeling what I see, you know? So So
It's
other
funny.
people can unconsciously end up modeling exactly what happened in their family as well.
Right. We have to head out for our break. Listeners, stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is Love 101 FM, the family station. It's 6:15.
Get your tickets now. Don't miss Come Alive, a national call to worship this Emancipation Day, August 1, 2026.
Limited special offer tickets available now
At Love 101 FM, Monday to Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Prices are as follows. General admission $7,000, VIP $22,000, and VVIP $32,000. Secure your tickets early and be part of a powerful night of worship, music, and impact.
Limited special offer tickets available now
At Love 101 FM, Monday to Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m.
Welcome back. You are tuned to Love 101 FM. This is Family Time, brought to you by Family Life Ministries. And FLM provides counseling for people with all kinds of challenges from all walks of life. Remember, you can tune into the program via the Love 101 FM Facebook page or Love 101 FM YouTube channel. Welcome back to our discussion on family dynamics and in-laws. And I just want to remind you that if you missed a program, or if there's a program that you want to share with somebody you think it's important and they ought to give it a listen, just go look for it and you'll find it on our YouTube channel. Marriage isn't just about today, it's about tomorrow and the many tomorrows after that. And while couples often plan weddings down to the last detail, many don't spend the same time discussing important issues like family dynamics and in-law relationships. Well, that's why we are doing it. And there is more to come with our special guest, Sonia Winter. Thank you for spending this time with us. You know, we almost reached the end. The time flies so fast. Here's where I want us to head now. These issues, various issues will come up, and we need to talk about them. So why is it that counselors emphasize or make the point that marriage creates a new family unit? Why do they do that?
I think it's a way of just reminding the couple that they have to shift those tectonic plates. They have to recognize that there's a new entity now, and if that entity is to really thrive, that new entity of the marriage really has to take priority. They're creating their own classroom now, where they're the teachers, they're the instructors, they define the classroom rules and so on. And they're using what they gained from each family to do so. But this new union, this allegiance, if it is to thrive, has to take priority. And for it to take priority requires negotiation, and it requires negotiation of different points of view, different rituals, and so on. And that's going to create conflict, many premarital counselors want to get there really quickly, want to give the couple the skills required to negotiate the different places from which they come, so that they can decide where they're going together.
Right.
Put it that way.
Right, and I think that is a biblical thing as well. You take your You
Yes.
take your wife and you become one. So that one is now brand new. It's different from whatever was there before. And I really appreciate how you started us out by talking about the classroom, because it would seem to me that there is a new principal in town, and that principal has to determine what goes on in this school, in this classroom.
Yes.
I think that's so cool. So
But
that brings us.
I just want to reiterate that it's not easy, because imagine somebody gets married at 25. It's 25 years that they have kind of always had a relationship. That's a habitual thing, and you're changing it now. So you can understand if doesn't if it's if it's a process of transition.
That's a very good point, Sonia. I wish I had raised that point, because what if you have individuals who, I guess the average marriage age now is increasing almost every year. And so you
Yes.
have somebody who has spent 36 years with this family coming now to try and create a new one. That's 36 years of baggage. No, I shouldn't say of baggage, of learning. 36 years.
Right. Hi, Roland, you still there? Yeah, yes, I agree with what Roland was saying. It's many years that you have, each person has been in a family setting that they've gotten used to, and they're now being required to um, reshape that, as it were. And then it's even more difficult if members of the extended family are now living with the couple. We know about the sandwich generation, where you have your parents living with you, or you have your guardians living with you, your grandparents, your mother, etc. Um, and that can be very hard to negotiate when they're even harder to negotiate when they're actually living in the home with you. So um, this shift is a process that it's important that couples are aware that it's a shift that doesn't come easily. And it's a shift that they have to be very deliberate about. They're the two people in the saddle now, and it's for them to decide together how they're going to negotiate it. Now, an important question that is often asked too is, how can couples actually honor their parents and still prioritize their marriage, for example? And that's an important question for couples to consider, especially in cultures like ours, where loyalty to your family of origin is very important, and respect to our guardians and parents and those who raised us is very important too. But at the end of the day, honoring your parents doesn't necessarily mean you allow your parents to control the marriage. Okay? And prioritizing the marriage does not mean dishonoring the parents either. It's walking that thin line is very important. You can honor your parents by always speaking to them respectfully, right? Always being compassionate, checking in on them, visiting, helping, being supportive, including them in celebrations, listening to their wisdom, giving them the time of day, um, and showing gratitude. Those are important ways to honor your parents. But at the same time, you can prioritize your marriage too, making sure that your spouse isn't treated as an afterthought. That you don't make major decisions with your parents first and then inform your spouse after that. That's not prioritizing your marriage. It's important that you don't allow your parents either to insult or disrespect your spouse in your presence. Okay? um, and that you don't repeatedly sacrifice the peace and the connection in your home in order to, avoid your parents' disapproval or reprimand, as it were. So I think those are important things to bear in mind, how to honor your parents while still prioritizing your marriage. And all of these things can happen at different times. A question came in about sharing issues. Can you honor your parents, and then does it require that you share every marital issue with parents as well in a way to honor them? And I would say no. Again, it's for the couple to decide what is shared with parents at the end of the day. The couple is the allegiance that's being honored first and foremost. And so, but there are times, of course, depending on the circumstances, when it's important to be able to lean on the support of the parents at the same time. Okay, so that's something to always keep your eye on, in terms of how you manage your now extended family with your primary family that you've established through this marriage. I'm seeing a response from Maya saying using guilt as a motivation and overscheduling. Okay, for sure, Maya, sometimes, but it can work both ways, Maya. Parents can sometimes use guilt to motivate us or to manipulate us, okay, to do what they want. But sometimes the spouses can also use guilt to manipulate us. So it's important in the negotiation between the couple that they are being respectful, that they're being transparent about their needs and how they feel, so that there's no kind of passive aggressive, jostling of guilt in order as they engage in that negotiation. Okay, and then also not allowing parents to manipulate them through guilt. Arnold is saying, I would prefer we have an open secret bank account. In other words, we have a joint account, but also personal accounts that are not secrets, but our own to do as we wish. And each other knows about it. Okay, Arnold, I understand. I think that can apply not only to financial bank account, but an emotional bank account as well. But also, Arnold, would you mind if I just pointed out that it is important that that is a position negotiated with your partner, that this is what you bring to the table. This is your starting point in the negotiation. And hopefully your partner is, between yourself and your partner, you can come up with a position about bank accounts that everybody can feel considered in as well. Let me turn back over to Roland. Hi there, Roland.
Thank you so much. I am glad you are on today. Technology sometimes interrupts, but I'm so happy. We are just about 3 minutes left. What are your final words to couples regarding this issue of in-laws and the family unit? This topic about family dynamics and in-laws. Your final words to them.
Let's see, Roland. I think I would say it's important to understand the family that you come from, because they shape your values, really, but it's also important to have really powerful negotiation skills, to always exercise respect, not only for your extended family of your parents, but for your partner too, and incorporate that kind of respect and consideration for both. Remembering that your marriage is now the allegiance that has priority, that we're trying to protect whilst honoring your parents at the same time.
Thank you so much, Sonia. I look forward to talking with you again.
Thanks,
and I'm
Roland.
sure we have learned a lot. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here with us, all our listeners. We hope today's conversation helps in shaping you and your homes. If you have questions of a personal nature or you're concerned about a friend or family member, we invite you to make contact with our offices in Kingston, 920-1034, 926-8101, or 579-8690. And you can also get us at 279-8678. The last two numbers are also WhatsApp enabled. So those two numbers are 579-8690 or 279-8678. Here's our verse for this evening, Proverbs 29, verse 11. It says, "A fool gives full vent to his spirit, but a wise man quietly holds it back." Thanks to our very special guest, Sonia Winter, show producer Kathy Gale, Derval Graham for piloting us through this hour, and of course, you for being here with us. I'm Roland. Have yourselves a blessed week.